the directors, Starehe Boys Center and Starehe Girls Center, former director, Mr. Mwaura, founding sponsor, Mr. Wahid Sheikh, members of the old Starehian community, and Starehe Boys and Starehe Girls. Good afternoon. Let me also not forget our chaplains today, plus members of staff and other invited guests. About 45 years ago, I walked through that gate. There was a gate because the school reached where that entrance is. The other side was the estate called Starehe, because there was an estate between Ziwani and the school. And when I walked in, it was my first time to have left home. And home was not very far. It was in a place called Bahati in Eastlands. So when the gate opened and I walked in, I knew I was on my own. And the first thing, of course, you saw was this quadrangle. So I have very good memories of this quadrangle. First, because I was taken to Kirkley House. Two, because the dining room was below Kirkley House. Three, my class 1A was just behind the Decagon. Four, the library is where the chapel is. So I spent my time rotating here, and of course going to the assembly hall in the afternoon. And then of course the roll call, we were sitting somewhere on the floor somewhere there. So my life was built around here, and it's always very good memory to be around here. I also know that the story that has been told about our founders is that after the assembly, they assembled at that corner there. So we have very good memories of this quadrangle. I also know that I came here as a boy, and when I received the charge in the assembly hall when I was leaving, I left as a man. So there was major transformation, and I hope when you came here, you came as boys, as you've been referred, and when you leave as men. I have enjoyed the entertainment today. I've seen all of you do quite a bit here. One of my regrets as a student is I never took interest in music. I started learning how to play instruments 10 years ago. Many years later, I was looking for a teacher to teach me how to play those instruments. I saw some boys play the guitar. I saw some boys play saxophone. I took up this much later. The point I'm making is, utilize your time when you are here, not only to study, but also to enjoy certain other things. I know the director has told you I played football. I also played many other sports, but football was the main game. So I enjoyed being the goalkeeper of the school. But while I was watching the entertainment, I couldn't help but enjoy the mass choir, the mixed choir. Because for the first time, Starehe Boys and Starehe Girls were performing, because it's the first time I've seen them together. In the days of Dr. Griffin, The girls that we saw came from the National Youth Service. And you can imagine we had our socks up, our red and blue. They came in green, but they had army boots. So you never went close, because if she stepped on you, you can imagine not only her weight, but the weight of those shoes would have been very heavy on you. So it was very nice to observe all these things. And seated there, I was very proud on behalf of all of you. I was very happy and proud to see the school captain standing on your behalf and saying all those good words about the founders. Because that is the spirit in which today's occasion is being held under. So, young man, well done. Now, coming back to the reason why we are here, a lot has been said. When I first came to Starehe Boys, I was a late entrant. And as the director has told you, I was 1 year ahead of him. So when I came to Starehe, he was not in Starehe. But the former director was 1 year ahead of me. So I'm between the two directors. I believe, although I did a few drills out there, because the punishment of drill was out there, and I probably did one working party, I told you I came here as a boy. On one occasion, I also received some canes. And it was actually not for bad behavior. We were going to play some match, and I didn't go to class that afternoon. Somebody talked about routine of Dr. Griffin. I was tired. I had tension in myself. We were going to play Lenana, in Lenana. So after lunch, I decided to take a nap. At this time, I had been moved from Kirkley House because I was senior. I was also a prefect. I was in D2 house, which I'm told now it's Pat Show. And so that afternoon, I was just waiting for the wooden horse, which was our mode of transport. It was a school truck. And I missed the class. And my teacher wrote a note to Dr. Griffin and said I had missed a class. And when you wrote a note to Dr. Griffin, or when a teacher wrote, it was upon you to go and see Dr. Griffin and explain. Because that note had to go back to the teacher with the words, dealt. That you've been dealt with. And he'd put his signature down there. So when I went to see Dr. Griffin, I explained to him that we had a crucial match. And I had a lot of tension. And that I needed to relax before the match. He did not want to understand as to the reason why I missed class. And yet I was going to represent the school in a very important football match. So I received punishment for the first part, and he congratulated me for the second part because I kept a clean sheet. We were not beaten. So as a result, I received the best of 6. And I remember telling him, I feel ashamed that as a person holding responsibility as a prefect, he had to punish me. And I was therefore ready to relinquish being a prefect in lieu of the caning. And he didn't want to hear of that. He believed in disciplining that action. So I remained a prefect, but I was caned as a prefect. And that is what created the image of very many acts that we were built into by the founders of the institution. That anybody who saw a Starehian, the first thing that came across is that we're very disciplined. Because other than being educated, we were also properly guided on discipline. It was instilled in us. And although at the time we saw it in a different way, when we came out, it really guided us in real life. And I hope that whatever you learn in this great institution, both here as boys and on the other side as girls, will help instill that discipline that will make you shine more than other students in other schools in our country. The 3 great men who I found in this institution were actually great in their own individual capacity. Dr. Griffin was a man with many stories, very good stories. And yes, I forgot one little bit. For having joined Starehe late during my year, he also gave me some little work to do. And he paid me 20 shillings, I think, a month. I used to wash his car, which used to be parked there. And how he chose those who will wash the cars, I don't know, because I was very new. But I looked forward to the 20 shillings a month, or something like that he gave us. There was no canteen, there was no Gatki land. In fact, when Gatki came, I think I was just about to leave. That's how it was associated with him. Because beyond that entrance was the new land. So those were being acquired as we were students here. But Dr. Griffin, in his own way, strict as he was, experienced as he was a very good man. And we continued to build the friendship many years after I left Starehe Boys. Mr. Geturo was a little reclusive. He was not the kind of person you could engage very deeply, but he was open to everybody. He was a quiet man. Of the 3 of them, he was the most quiet. And we went to classes with his sons, David and Chris, and they were fun to be with. They were opposite of their dad until they saw him. Then they behaved like him. Then we had Mr. Gikubu, and listening to the head of student welfare, Mr. Waithaka. At first, his demeanor looked like an old boy, but I waited for him to say his file number. Then I realized he's not an old boy. But the demeanor was the same. Mr. Gikubu appeared quiet. maybe in the shadows of Mr. Griffin and Mr. Gituro, but he was the most entertaining character of the three. He had a manner in which he expressed himself, and he befriended all of us as we left school. So some of us got very, very close to him after school, and we created very good friendships. What am I saying? That today we are talking about three men who are human beings. Because first and foremost, we must appreciate they were human beings. But more important, they had a dream. And we lived in their dream of not only Starehe boys, but also Starehe girls. And in that dream, they created who we became. Because we owe a lot of gratitude to the dream that they so much worked for and so much founded. A lot has been said about rich legacy. I don't have to repeat about it, but I'll tell you something. Some of the best friendships we have as alumni were created here. Whether in Kenya, whether in other parts of the world, when you meet an alumni, whether it was during your years or not, you all become one alumni. And because I've traveled far and wide, I can tell you today my experiences of meeting old Starehians wherever I've been have been nothing but warm and cordial. Let me say the last item is that the three men in their dreams were very keen to create centers of excellence. Not only in character building, but I remember as I stood at that corner, on the day results were announced. And it was always competition between Starehe boys and Alliance boys. They would be full of joy if we were in top two. So I challenge you today that during our time, the competition was between position 1 and 2, not top 10, not top 20. The competition was always between position 1 and 2. And that would be the greatest gift for all that you've heard about those three men, if you can put yourself into that mood to always compete, not to be between 1 and 2, but to be in position 1. And I want to say, if you're able to do that, you'll have lived in their dreams. And all we can say as old boys cheering you outside here and out there is to wish you God's blessings in living what the dream of those three people. Thank you very much.